You ever try to learn something new as an adult and just think to yourself, man, this was so much easier when I was a kid? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. But what if I told you that as an adult, you actually have a learning superpower, something kids just don't have? Well, today we're going to unpack the science of adult learning, and I'll show you exactly why your experience is your greatest asset. So, what's the deal? I mean, really, why does learning a new language or even just some new software for work feel so different from, memorizing your multiplication tables back in the day? It's a feeling we all know, but there's some real science behind it. And the answer? Well, it all comes down to a fundamental shift in how our brains are wired to learn as we get older. And that shift, it really comes down to two totally different playbooks for learning. We're not just talking about getting older here. It's a complete change in the dynamic, what motivates us, and what our goals even are. All right, so on one side, you've got pedagogy. Fancy word, right? But it's basically what you remember from school. The teacher is at the center, and you're the dependent learner, just kind of absorbing subjects. But on the other side, we have andragogy. Now, this is the art and science of adult learning. It flips the script entirely. It's learner-centered, built for people who are self-directed, and it's all about applying knowledge to solve real-world problems. And this is where the difference really just snaps into focus. Think about it. For kids, motivation is almost always external, right? It's about grades, making your parents happy, getting praise. But for adults, wow, our own life experience is the textbook. The motivation comes from inside. It's about leveling up in your career, making your life better, or just mastering a skill because you want to. The goal isn't just to know stuff, it's to be able to do stuff with it. Okay, so let's get formally introduced to this idea of andragogy. This is the framework that helps us turn all that past experience into our greatest learning tool. So at its core, andragogy is just the term for all the methods and principles used in adult education. And look, the idea has been kicking around for a while, but it was an American educator, Malcolm Coles, who really brought it into the spotlight. He's the one who defined it as the art and science of helping adults learn. And this is not some newfangled idea, not at all. The term was actually first used way back in 1833. But it was Malcolm Knowles, back in the 60s, who really gave it its modern punch. He was the one who had this crucial insight. For adults, how you learn, the process itself, is just as important, maybe even more important, than what you learn. So, what does this theory actually look like in practice? Well, Knowles broke it all down into a set of assumptions about who we are as adult learners and a set of principles for how we learn best. You can think of it as the official playbook. Okay, I know this might look a little academic, but trust me, it boils down to something really simple. What Knowles was saying is that as we become adults, our entire identity as a learner just transforms. We stop being dependent students and we become the self-directed drivers of our own education. We take the wheel. And that huge reservoir of life experience we've built up, that becomes our number one resource. We learn best when the information is immediately relevant to our lives. Solving a problem at work, helping our kids with something, you name it. And maybe the most important piece of all, the motivation to learn has to come from inside. And this is where it all clicks into place. Here's the absolute best way to think about this. A child is building their house of knowledge from scratch, right, on an empty lot. But as adults, we're renovating the house we already live in. And that's why these principles are so critical. We need to be involved in the renovation plans. We have to have a say. Our existing experience, that's the foundation of the house. We need the new skills to be immediately useful. It's like needing to fix a leaky faucet today, not just reading a book about plumbing theory for some future test. It have to be focused on solving real, tangible problems right now. This intense focus on experience naturally takes us beyond the four walls of a classroom. For adults, some of the most profound, game-changing learning happens just in the middle of our daily lives. And a lot of other brilliant thinkers have built on this exact idea. And that brings us to something called experiential learning, a concept championed by the legendary educator John Dewey. It's a really simple but powerful idea. We learn by doing. And, this is the crucial part, by reflecting on what we've just done. It's this idea that our workplaces, our homes, our communities, they're all powerful classrooms, even if they don't look like one. But here's the brilliant catch, and this comes from Dewey himself. He said, not all experience educates. Wow, think about that for a second. It's such a critical point. Just having an experience isn't enough. I mean, we've all seen someone, maybe even ourselves, make the exact same mistake over and over again, right? It's the act of stepping back, reflecting on that experience, and actually pulling a lesson from it that creates real, genuine learning.
And when we get really good at reflecting on those experiences, something incredible can happen. It leads to a concept called transformative learning. This is the next level. This is where you don't just learn a new skill, you fundamentally change your core beliefs and how you see the entire world. It is without a doubt the deepest, most powerful kind of learning there is.
Okay, so how do these theories from like a century ago apply to our super connected, crazy fast-paced world today? Well, it turns out they are more relevant than they have ever been. In fact, they are shaping the very future of how we learn and work right now. Just look at this number, a 35% jump in adult enrollment in online courses in just the last 2 years. That's not a fluke. That's a massive societal shift towards lifelong learning. We are all, right at this very moment, becoming the self-directed learners that these theories have been describing all along.
And if you look at the big trends, they're all telling the same story. We're taking charge of our own learning journey. We're using new tech like AI and VR to make it personal. There's this huge shift happening where employers are valuing practical skills way more than old school degrees. And it's all getting more holistic too, focusing on our well-being and learning together in communities. Every single one of these trends is just a real-world example of adult learning principles in action.
But let's be real for a second. It's not always a walk in the park. Adult learners face some very real challenges. Juggling learning with work, with family, it's a constant battle with the clock. And staying motivated, that can be so tough, especially if you're learning something out of necessity instead of pure passion. Then you've got the anxiety, that weird back to school feeling, and let's be honest, sometimes we're just resistant to letting go of old habits. But just recognizing that these hurdles are real is the first big step to getting over them. So here's the main takeaway, the most important thing to remember from all this. Learning feels different as an adult, not because it's necessarily harder, but because the rules of the game have completely changed. You are not an empty vessel waiting to be filled up with knowledge anymore, not even close. You are a self-directed, problem-solving powerhouse. And your life experience, that's not just your backstory. It is your single greatest learning resource. It's your superpower. So the only question left is, how are you going to use it?